Western is a genre that feels a bit less utilized compared to others for gaming. Before Red Dead Redemption 2 swept gaming for a few years, the number of games coming out in the genre were pretty low, and it still is. I don't know the reason for that specifically, and I haven't actually looked up how many games there are in this genre, but it feels low, doesn't it? It's to the point that whenever I see a new Western video game, it feels novel. Call of Juarez, Gunslinger is not a new game. It's been a while since it came out, but playing it in 2026 definitely surprised me on how the game handles its genre and the tropes that come with it. Call of Juarez Gunslinger is a different game in that sense. It looks at its premise and the lore built up around westerns and the era they take their inspirations from. The game is not afraid to make fun of its tropes, change things around, take the almost mythological figures of the era lightly in its storytelling. Even though I don't believe westerns are used too frequently in gaming, the game still looks at it as a tired genre that tells the same stories over and over again, and makes fun of it in a way that makes playing and following the story of the game fun as well. The story starts in a saloon with our main character, a bounty hunter named Silas Graves. Entering the bar, he is recognized by people who ask him about his adventures and his life story. We have 5 characters in this bar, 6 including Silas. He starts to answer their questions and tell his stories. Some characters are enamored by his storytelling, some skeptical, some questioning. He tells them anyway. This scene happens in 1910, although our first mission begins in 1880 with Silas's first story. Over the course of the game, the stories told in that saloon will be the template for the game we are going to play. The narration given by Silas over the course of the game will ring in our ears as we play out the scenarios he gives us. We as the players are so attached to this narrative that as it is being told, things will change around us. New things will be added, we will rewind, fast forward, and on and on. The reality around us is based on Silas's storytelling and the blemishes he adds to those stories. This narrative device is used as comic relief at certain times and as the backbone of the overall narrative at parts. We'll discuss that as we get to the ending. Let's look at the graphics before we move forward. The graphics and the art style of the game was the first thing that popped out at me, and one that I always wanted to talk about in this review. It has dirty yellow color grading that early to mid 2010s games have, along with an art style that is cartoony, busy, and colorful. It reminds me of Borderlands and a lot of games in that era with every model and object having thick outlines to give it a digital, hand-drawn look to it. The cutscenes are done with still images that feel like old western comic strips, but with more busy drawing and sharp colors. The atmosphere the game draws from is its art style is fantastic. It might have been tired a decade and a few years ago when it was released, but now it feels pretty fresh with games not really going for a style like this nowadays. Thinking about it, whenever you meet a new important character, get a new gun, and so on, there is a 3-line comic strip with bold letters that write out short, punchline exposition, which does remind me of Borderlands again. And thinking about it more, the art style and choices in this game might have been influenced by a lot of that craze that Borderlands started in early 2010s with bold, cartoony animated graphics, witty dialogue, and a world and story that does not take itself too seriously. As I mentioned, we are always listening to our main character tell the stories of his many adventures as we play them out at the same time. Sometimes the character embellishes the story, talks about how things could have went down in different ways, and we play those different outcomes. Sometimes we die or fail our objective and the narrator backtracks to talk about what actually happens, and you see the game rewind back, the rewinding sound effect and all. It makes what is essentially a corridor shooter into a fun and engaging game. Let's talk about the mechanics for a bit. As I mentioned, this is basically a corridor shooter. You shoot the bad guys, move forward, more bad guys appear, and it goes on like that. The game has few enjoyable twists for the western genre, and it also has those for the gameplay as well. There's a duel mechanic, where you try to focus your cursor on the enemy as they move around. The cursor is sluggish and prone to overshoot its target or not move enough. You also have to move your hand that is ready to reach your gun around to get the best angle. You keep doing these things and the bar for speed and focus increases. You can draw your gun at any time, but drawing first counts as a dishonorable kill. So if you wait for your opponent to reach for their gun first and then kill them, it is an honorable kill and you get more points and experience. There is a basic skill tree as well, where with every level you choose to unlock a different skill, which are basically separated into different gun and gun types. You can main one of the guns, revolver, shotgun, rifle, and some miscellaneous upgrades and items as well, like dynamites. The upgrade mechanic kinda draws you to choose a gun and stick to it, but honestly, the guns are pretty good even without the upgrades, so you can switch around. I basically went for the pistol skill tree and mostly used that. There is also bullet time, where you can slow down time and shoot your enemies. This is the concentration mode, and it fills up as you shoot more enemies. Another version of this bullet time is the one you come across in story moments, where the game stops, you click to select the enemy is on screen, and when the time is up, the character automatically shoots the selected enemies. They create pretty cool sequences in this game. It is pretty similar to those slow motion breach sequences in Call of Duty games, especially the one that came out recently to this game, with added stuff like dodging headshots by pressing Q or E depending on which direction the bullet is coming from, and few other small mechanics. The game does not get boring, especially for the game's runtime, which is not very long at all. One of my favorite genres in the past were light gun shooters, pretty similar to corridor shooters, but in these games all you do is shoot and the movements and scene changes are made automatically, like a glorified shooting gallery. Think games like The House of the Dead, pretty cool stuff. The game reminds me of those games a lot. Down to the combos, scores, gunplay, this game can easily be changed into a light gun shooter, that is for sure. Although the movement itself creates a freedom that is a brief breath of fresh air, the game does not hold you in too much, and I haven't come across any invisible walls. There are soft walls where the game brings you back if you wander too much, but the game feels varied and open for what is essentially the furthest away from an open world game. I feel like this game tried to grab all the tropes of its era in gaming and mash them together, and the result should have been an unenjoyable mess, but I found myself returning to it a few times. With a runtime 3 to 5 hours, it is not a long game. It does not overstay its welcome. It gets into business, does what it wants to do, and gets out, just like our main character. You follow Silas on a 30-year span of outlaw adventures that range from town shootouts to train heists. You see real-life people turn characters all known by people at least a little bit familiar with westerns, sometimes portrayed with irony and cheekily, I guess is a word for it. Really go towards spoilers at this point of the review, talk about the story a bit and talk about the ending. However, I don't think I'm going to do that for this time around. It is a story about revenge and has all the turns and twists a good western revenge story has, with a modern twist of storytelling and a deadly case of an affliction called the Unreliable Narrator. If I read the story as like a 50-page short story, I would finish it in one sitting, put the book down, and leave satisfied with what I spent my time with. It is not a story to linger and make you question the world, but like a good pulp story, it pulls you in, makes you keep reading it, and the ending of the mystery is always satisfying. I think I will leave it up to you whether you want to give this game a shot and learn what the game offers in its story and conclusion. Call of Juarez, Gunslinger is a product of its time, but with a distinct art style, airtight combat feel, and a few twists on not only the gameplay and also the western genre it is based around. I could not believe how time did not seem to affect this game all that much. You can see some roughness around some edges, but for a game that is almost 15 years old, it holds up incredibly well. With great voice acting, gunplay, and engaging story, it is a game seldom talked about, but I believe it deserves its props as a good, maybe even a great game.